Mike is just coming back from a very exciting road trip that we are going to jump right into, and he's going to go ahead and talk about as we recap the Raiders versus Giants game. Mike, tell us about your trip.
Yeah, I was just hanging out Thursday night, and I couldn't help but feel a little excited about this Sunday and, the coaching change. And I just thought to myself, well, I looked at the schedule and I saw a preview on Fox about the game of the week, Eagles versus Cowboys. And then I noticed at some point, oh, the Raiders are playing the Giants on Fox this week. And I put two and two together, and I was like, I don't think the Raider game is going to play in California. I think they're going to play the game of the week. And I was like, oh, let me just look at ticket prices. Like, why not, right? And I found these seats that, honestly, I couldn't pass up. And, yeah, long story short, make the drive out there. Long drive. Very close friend. Shout out to Paulina. And, yeah, it was a great game. Great game. First time seeing a game in Vegas. I've been there before for a stadium tour, but being there at the game is a little different. And I mean, yeah, the seats were those are the best seats I had ever sit in a game in any sporting event. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, I see this in the chat. I want to get to this before Anthony goes to bed. But Anthony says today is his birthday. He's 33 today. Happy birthday, Anthony.
Happy birthday.
I'm glad the Raiders were able to get a win for you, for your birthday. Mike, so what was the experience like? You were sitting sort of in the lower section, field level, right?
Field level, end zone, right in the middle, row 7, first deck, section.
Were you where the club is?
No, the opposite end.
Okay. I was like, Mike was over at the gate.
Yeah, I was.
Oh, there's a football game going on.
I was opposite the torch. So that, I mean, it was cool. I got.
So you had the view of the torch the whole game.
Yeah. I had the view of the torch, which is kind of what I wanted. I wanted to be able to see out the window behind it and everything. Yeah, and it was perfect. So,
but really, the view of the torch was actually the story of the game because the New York Giants got torched by the Raiders and Aiden O'Connell.
It felt like the summary of the game for sure. So let's see here. The Raiders ended up winning 30-6 in front of 62,000 fans. And just based off of my eyes, I would say it was probably a good 65 to 70% Raider fans. But it still felt like a lot of Giants fans, right? Especially on the Giants side, their sideline, right? Especially where their tunnel came out, or where the players came out of the tunnel and everything. I think I sent you a video on Twitter. If you want to check that, you could kind of put it up while we talk about it, just to kind of show where I was sitting.
Thank God I didn't share screen first. The algorithm on Twitter is wild.
So just some notes before I get into actual stats and such. The offense was great in the first half. Obviously, Aiden O'Connell started. Bo Hardigree was calling plays for the first time this season. I think first time ever in the NFL. And, again, in the first half, it looked good. And developing the run game with Josh Jacobs was clearly one of the prime focuses on offense. And that's what I've been calling for all season. That's what they have to do, right? Mm-hmm. Also, lots of pre-snap motion, misdirection. Tristan Kuhn on Twitter put in a tweet that these fakes and all the misdirection pre-snap lead guys into space. And really, it makes it easier for Aiden O'Connell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's
so,
kind of
this was Mike's view.
Aiden O'Connell throwing to Devontae.
It's a tough situation he's thrust into, but it's another turnover by Dobbs. He was being hit. The ball came loose. They're actually calling this a fumble. I'm not sure they hit the ground. It could be a fumble or an interception.
I mean, it's no Levi's Stadium, but I guess it's kind of nice.
It's funny, I didn't expect to go to 2 straight football games 2 weekends in a row. Going to Levi's for the Bengals game last weekend and then ending up in Vegas the following weekend. But it's unfair to compare the seats, between my view at the Niner game and this game. But I mean, the stadium, the atmosphere at Allegiant in Vegas is like, it's top notch for sure. And that's coming from a team who, just fired its coach, and they look like they're definitely on the outside looking in as far as the playoffs go. But there's definitely new life breathed into this team, this Raiders team with Antonio Pierce. And I'll definitely get more into Antonio Pierce as we go here.
Before you get into that,
more. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, because you've been to many Raider games in Oakland, how would you compare and contrast the experience of the Raider games in Oakland versus the Raider game that you just witnessed in Vegas? Because it was a pretty exciting game for you guys, because you just let go of Josh McDaniels and you have Antonio Pierce fill in, and he is absolutely embodying everything that, at least from my perspective, what the Raiders are trying to aim for. Right?
Yeah. I compared to Oakland. Okay.
We're going to find out if you're a real Raider fan here.
Well, obviously I'm loyal to the Bay and loyal to the Oakland Raiders. This stadium experience is top notch. And I mean, I've never been to like a Dallas, or apparently Minnesota might have the best stadium in football. But if you're comparing the stadiums, obviously it's not close. Comparing the atmosphere, I think that was your question.
Like the fans, because like there's a huge difference between, like, I mean, clearly Allegiant Stadium is a better like venue than the Oakland Coliseum.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like close, but like the way the fans, react to things, the way they, act, like what's it like when you go from the parking lot, it helps give the stadium life, and there's things that I've heard about Candlestick that, like, fans miss about Candlestick versus, the Niners' new stadium. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like, you could argue that in not every way, I hear there's like some drawbacks, but you could argue there are some good things that give like Levi's its own charm, So like, what were those, for you?
Well, okay. The fact that it's indoors is different. I mean, what gives it a different charm is obviously the city that it's in, right? Vegas is, so it's all show, right? For example, pregame, just before the Raiders are coming out of the tunnel. In Oakland, it was simply, okay, the Giants are coming out, and they might play like an 80s rock song, dun, 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 right? And then Giants come out, boo, and then all of a sudden you hear Hell's Bells, and it's like, it's going, and the Raiders come out and stuff, but it wasn't so cinematic, right? They had 3 big screens in this stadium. It's so nice. But it being Vegas, they have a countdown before the players come out, and it's like starting at 20 minutes, and it just slowly goes down until it's like 5 minutes, and like, 5 minutes until the show begins is the way that they call it. And then the show will begin in 10 seconds. 9, 8. Like, they keep saying it, the show, and it's like, okay, Vegas, this is a show, right?
Mhm.
So that's like a little taste of it, you know. And then the fact, like, now this game might be different than say when they face the Chiefs, and right now, obviously the Chiefs are a better team. Let's say the Chiefs come into town and they beat the Raiders 28-17, 28-10, right? Not a fun game for Raider fans. Chiefs hold the lead the whole time. And oh, by the way, because the Chiefs are a great team and their fans are going to show up, it might be 50-50, if not worse, Chiefs fans, right? Depending on the hype for the Raiders and all that, you know. But I could see that being a lot different. But in this sense, we blow out the Giants. It was cool, obviously. But
Mhm.
it felt like a Raider game. Honestly, I had been to so many Oakland Raider games. I've had season tickets in Oakland. It felt like a Raider game. And maybe that's because they won, because we scored many touchdowns. We got multiple interceptions in this game.
Well,
The
if
crowd
you're
was roaring.
if you're saying it's because you won, then maybe it didn't feel like a Raider game. Considering the past 20 years, I had to give that little jab to you. I'm sorry to the Raider fans in the chat.
Well,
Um,
in the sense of excitement in the air, like
no,
a
I get
week
what you mean.
ago, with Josh McDaniels, the fans might have just sat there. Obviously, let's say they have a semi-close game and they lose at the end, like, fans would not be as excited. But I swear to you, dude, like Antonio Pierce and the whole vibe, it felt like how it should feel, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, the best way I could put it, it feels like a Raider game. Like I was
Mhm.
happy and content with that, and more than happy with their home, their stadium. Like that is world class. Like, unfortunately for Oakland and me being a Bay Area guy, they're never coming back. They're never leaving Vegas. Like, but I can at least be happy with the fact that they are situated well, right?
Mhm.
The only thing is that they need to start winning and becoming a consistent winner so that the fans can start really showing up when they need to.
Mhm.
That's the only thing on
Mike,
that.
is it true that Mark Davis got a haircut?
I didn't see it personally, but I saw it on Twitter. I know I sent it to you. It looked like it. He looked like he had a different level of like swagger to him based off the
Yeah.
videos and stuff that I saw.
Yeah, so check this
So,
out. In last week's, I mean, I feel like all off season, and like going into the season, I was like saying, Mark Davis has got a, I've been poking fun at Mark Davis's hair, but the Raiders are 1-0 when he finally switches it up a little bit. Like it's not that much different than what he had before, but I feel like he doesn't have like the bangs in the front. Like he's evolving,
yeah.
So
So, how about let's have you play the second video that I sent you
mhm.
on Twitter. There's now 4. The fourth
Okay.
one's sending right now. But play the second one. It's going to be long, 2 minutes 20 seconds, and I'm going to talk as it plays.
Okay. Do you want me to mute it?
Sure. Yeah. Might as well, because it's just going to be fans talking. But where I was at, there we go. Obviously, it's the stretch, pregame, and then the camera will focus on Coach right here, and we're just going to follow him as he high fives every single player.
Mm-hmm.
So,
hey, there's Jimmy.
Yeah, and he even gives him a high five.
Yep.
And Jimmy was the QB too, so there's that.
Yeah, so if O'Connell would have went down, Jimmy would have been back in. And I think I remember last week that you mentioned that you don't think that we're going to see any more Jimmy because of the whole contract thing.
Yeah, well, that was my hope, but it seems like, should shit hit the fan, Jimmy would be the guy that comes in. So, but last thing I was saying about the offense, lots of fakes, misdirection, which, as Tristan Kuhn put it on Twitter, makes it easier on Aiden O'Connell, right? Makes it easier to make some plays. But with that being said, according to Ted Nguyen on Twitter, Aiden also checked out of a run play to a pass play on a 3rd and short and threw a pass to Devontae Adams for a first down. So Aiden O'Connell was also calling his own audibles, commanding the offense, right?
Mhm.
And I also saw a post-game interview with Josh Jacobs where, somebody asked him, like, what'd you say to Aiden O'Connell before the game? And did you have anything to say to him? And Josh was just like, I just told him, when in doubt, hand it to me, And good idea, dude. Good idea. He ran the ball 26 times, and that's what we want to see. So,
Mhm. The dude's getting ready to kick someone like a horse.
Yeah. And then also, like, okay, the offense looked great in the first half, but in the second half, it really, really slowed down and was not quite as good, to put it lightly. And Trishan Kuhn also put on Twitter, it's possible that they didn't want to put too much on film. It was clear, the Giants had their third string quarterback in. We're up by 24 points. There's no real need to go out there and, go crazy on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still, you would like to see the offense go down, just run down their throat and win by 40. But that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
This is the opening touchdown on the Raiders' first offensive possession. It's Jacoby Myers on an end around.
Mike, I don't hear you cheering.
Yeah, I was focusing on filming. But, honestly, this play, like, it got loud, but the play that got the loudest, and I didn't have my camera out, it wasn't a play where I was expecting something big. The big Amik Robertson interception.
Oh, dude, that was such a nice play.
Great play,
Dude.
and it happened right here. See where that goalpost? Like, it was right in front of me. Like,
Was
I
it
stood
like
up
right
and just
here,
seen,
or
like, diving.
was it like right here?
Basically where Trevon Merrick is, 25.
Yeah. Okay,
like, that's
right
where
here.
it was right in front of me. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then this is the Giants' lone touchdown play, I'm pretty sure. So obviously some Giants fans were there, but so players of the game, obviously Max Crosby. The dude had a crazy game. I'll get into the stats in a sec here. Amik Robertson. Oh my gosh, dude. Obviously Aiden O'Connell getting his first start actually not first start, but his first win as a starter.
Mm-hmm.
And then Josh Jacobs. 26 carries, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Anthony says sick footage. It is pretty sick footage.
I'll tell you what, dude. I have no idea what season tickets cost at that stadium. I have no idea what that would be like for me to try to attempt to do that, being that I live in the Bay Area and everything. But going to that game and sitting in those seats, like, I would kill to someday have the opportunity to have season tickets at that stadium. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Someday when they're, consistently a winner, I have to do it someday in my life for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Jacobs has already set his season highs for a game in several categories. Rush yards, 85. Touchdowns, 10-yard rushes. He had 2. And this was in the third quarter. That was tweeted by Paul Gutierrez.
Mm-hmm.
Aiden O'Connell, 16 for 25, 209 yards. In the first quarter? Oh, I'm sorry. 16 to 25, 209 yards. Completed passes to 8 different receivers. He's very accurate, very quick with his decisions, as we saw in the preseason. Obviously we're hoping to see him progress as the season goes on, and, we'll see how he goes. In the first half, he was 9 of 10. So, and then second half, kind of went down.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, again, they were up big. They didn't need to pass so much. Trey Tucker led in receiving yards, 2 catches for 52 yards. He had a deep catch almost a touchdown, but couldn't quite keep his footing. He had to dive for it. Devontae Adams led the team with 7 targets, had 4 catches for 34 yards. Hunter Renfrow had 2 catches for 32 yards. He was probably 1 or 2 players away from getting a little touchdown, but it was nice to see Renfrow out there. Jacoby Myers, 2 for 38, plus the 17-yard touchdown on the end around. Offensive line, man, 0 sacks given up in this game. And this is against a really solid defensive line on the Giants. Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence. I just saw a tweet that they have a combined 11.5 sacks, those 2 players, and a lot of pressures. Both of them had none. Or maybe it was QB hits. But none for both of them in this game. Andre James, this is from Tristan Kuhn, currently holds a 98% run block win rate, which is 3rd for interior offensive linemen, 2nd at center on the season. And then also Dexter Lawrence, coming off a near record 15 pressures last week, recorded 0 versus the Raiders. And it's the first time he's failed to pressure the QB since week 13 of 2021. So obviously the offensive line had a great game. And really, I would have figured the offense will play a little better, but really it's the defense that's going to show up in this game. But everybody showed up. Everybody was fired up with, new coach, new mindset.
I really dislike Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't like
him.
Yeah,
he is easily just a villain in this league. And he's totally accepted that. He's taken it on. Yeah.
I don't know if he's accepted it and taken it on, or if he's just straight up like a douche.
Well, whatever he is, he doesn't mind being that.
Yeah.
That's him apparently.
Whether he minds or not, that's just what he is.
Yeah.
Or at least that's what he portrays himself as.
For sure.
Whether he tries to or not.
Yeah. It seems effortless.
Yeah.
So, but he didn't have any chance to do anything against the Raiders, so I can't be mad. Jacob Johnson.
Look at you with your little smirk.
Yeah. Is that his name? Jacob Johnson? I might have got that wrong. Well, the fullback for the Raiders was out due to a concussion. And in his place was actually the backup offensive guard, Netani Muti, who came in and played a few plays at fullback. I didn't notice it. But that's a great idea. Come on.
There needs to
offensive
be
guard.
More linemen, period, just playing fullback. I would love, I've had this idea for a while. What would opposing defenses do if the Niners lined up Javon Kinlaw at fullback on the goal line?
Yeah, I don't know which team it was over the weekend, scored a touchdown with a defensive tackle. He lined up at fullback and he, went across the line and everything. That or a backup guard. You hear all the time this player reports is eligible.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they just sit essentially as tight end on a big, obvious run play. But, the amount of teams that don't use fullbacks, period, this should be the way that fullbacks transcend, right? You can either be a team with a Juszczyk or a Marcel Reese type, right? An Alec Ingold, a jack of all trades sort of player, or you can just not roster a fullback and just put your backup guard at fullback a couple plays a game. Why not? That feels like it should be pretty successful to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that for offense. AJ Cole, every time he touched a football, he was ready to boot that thing out of the stadium. In fact, he set an NFL single game record with a 63.6 yard punt per punt average. Highest in NFL history in one game, minimum of 4 punts.
Typically it's a bad thing when your punter sets NFL records in a game. But for the Raiders,
Yeah.
It turned out to be a good thing. But typically when you hear punter records, it's they punted for the most times since 1960.
Yeah. Well, it was mostly happening in the second half. Luckily, when the game was already it felt pretty over. But he
All right, Anthony,
He,
I hope you have a great birthday. Thank you for checking us out. And you can always tune in. I know you were commenting about Brock Purdy. Sorry to interrupt, Mike. I know you were commenting about Brock Purdy. You can check out the Niner videos if you're, interested in, me talking about it. So we'll see. I might have a little to talk about Purdy. Go ahead, Mike.
every time that he punted, he got it within 3 yards of the pylon every single time. And there was one time where I thought he got it right on the 1 yard line, like from my view, but it turns out he went in the end zone. But he was punting it from like the 30-yard line, the opposite side of the field, and just booting it as far as he could. It was, I was sitting there. There was a couple times he kicked it away from me. I was like, oh my God. So NFL record that I got to witness was pretty cool.
Joel says he thinks that the defensive lineman lined up at fullback was on the Saints.
Possibly.
Yeah.
It makes
sense that it was the Saints because they line up Taysom Hill anywhere. So like I guess anybody is just available.
Who played on Thursday? Thursday Night Football?
It was
also welcome in, Joel.
Who played on Thursday? I know it.
Oh, Steelers and
Titans.
Titans. It was the Titans. It was Jeffrey Simmons. Simmons. Yeah. But maybe the Saints did too. I don't see why you wouldn't. Just put a big body out there. So a linebacker is not getting through them unless they evade them, and then even when they do that, like they have to take themselves out of the play in a way.
You know why they don't do that?
Because they don't want to get hurt.
No, because sometimes these coaches, they don't sit back and think. Like, all right, you have, your strongest unit on your team is typically your defensive line.
Well,
stick them in there.
Yeah.
What are they going to do on the sideline? Like, obviously they're resting up, but, it wouldn't hurt for one play. We want to see that.
Yeah. Speaking of coaches not thinking, can you go to the Twitter messages that I sent you? Up at the top, the first one that I sent you from Tristan Kuhn. It's below the Antonio Pierce one, which I do want to watch that Antonio Pierce video later.
Let's see.
Just put it on the screen and I'll just keep talking. It's from Tristan Kuhn. Right below a video of yes, yeah. So coach is not thinking, right? Obviously, this is in relation to Josh McDaniels here. Bo Hardegree has run more pre-snap motion in one single drive than I think McDaniels did in any game. It genuinely probably isn't a fact, but it feels like it is. It's like it's a known fact. Like offenses are more successful when you have pre-snap motion. You get to give the quarterback a little bit to read before he starts the play. And you get to throw off the defense a little, like just a little bit of trickeration and confusion, please. Misdirection, right? Anyways, that's just the McDaniels dig.
I mean, like pre-snap motion essentially will tell you whether the defense is playing man or zone coverage,
right.
And it's like a little bit of a cheat code.
Yeah,
why wouldn't you use it? I mean, unless you're in like the 2-minute drill, then like, a guy like Kyle Shanahan needs to stop using, pre-snap motion and like draining the clock and losing all those football games when you're down in the fourth quarter. But, otherwise, if you're in control of the game, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing pre-snap motion or, I don't see a good reason why, if it gives you a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah. So Max Crosby, 8 total tackles, 3 sacks, 4 QB hits, 6 pressures, 3 tackles for loss. Have a game.
It's a pretty good game.
This is from Raiders PR. So the Raiders have like a PR account on Twitter. Crosby now has 77 career tackles for loss. This was probably in the first or second quarter. Like he might have got 1 or 2 more after this. Crosby now has 77 career tackles for loss, passing Jared Allen, 76, DeMarcus Ware, 76, TJ Watt, 76, for 5th most in NFL history since 1999 when it was recorded, among players in their first 75 career games. So he's not passing Jared Allen or DeMarcus Ware like all time, but in their first 75 career games, he's above those guys. In their, again, in their first 75 career games.
Question:
So-
would you consider Max Crosby a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year?
I wasn't really feeling too strongly about this until this weekend. And I sent you a video, but I don't want you to play it just in case of copyright. On I think it's Fox's pregame, Charles Woodson came out and said, if I were voting for Defensive Player of the Year, I'd be voting for Max Crosby, and that was before the Raider game today or Sunday.
Mhm. And he got 3
And-
sacks.
Yeah, actually, can you go to my quote? Can you go to my profile and pull up the most recent tweet that I put out? I didn't send it to you, but actually on my profile.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because you never know with Twitter,
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I'll keep going for now while you look for it. Robert Spillane led the team in tackles with 9, as well as sharing a sack with Tyree Wilson, first-round pick. Wilson had 2 pressures and 2 QB hits. Trevon Merrick gave up the lone touchdown in coverage. We played it earlier. He kind of just got caught looking at the quarterback, let the guy just roll out behind him. I think he kind of assumed Marcus Peters was going to cover the guy, but there were 2 receivers in the area.
Mm-hmm. We're about to plug your Twitter right now. Look at this.
Yes,
Look at
sir.
this.
I mean, we always are, but
Look at that. See, that's proof that he was at the game. This isn't just anyone. This is Michael.
yeah. I just
Should have told,
it's funny
should
because
have
it
told
says
that
Adams.
Eli Manning. Should have told that guy to kick rocks.
I know. I should have just kicked him. So
Yeah.
it's going to be below the pinned tweet.
Co-creator of the Silver and Gold podcast. Wow. Raiders
Yes,
Bless.
sir.
YouTube.com. Okay.
Below
Blue
the
Beetle?
pinned tweet. That one right there. So here you go. If you want to talk about Defensive Player of the Year. So it's a statistical comparison between the edge players currently favored for Defensive Player of the Year between Myles Garrett. Who the hell would Hunter be? Am I forgetting somebody?
Daniil Hunter.
Obviously I am. There you go. Yep. Danielle Hunter from the Vikings. TJ Watt from the Steelers. Max Crosby. Micah Parsons. And Hendrickson from the Bengals. Obviously, red is a little low for that statistic. Green is high. And obviously, you could see my tweet. I'm seeing a lot of green for a certain individual. Now, one of
Okay,
those greens is snaps,
so
and that
green.
helps.
Green means it's the highest in that category.
It means yes. Well, yeah.
Yeah. So
Correct.
snaps, Garrett has the lowest. Crosby has the highest.
Mhm.
It looks like by far. So
And that's
Crosby
expected.
Crosby's playing more
yeah.
snaps than any of the candidates.
That's been a thing with him. That's
Mhm.
been a thing with Crosby, and he's like the lone guy that's playing 100% snaps like every game. He's the one guy.
So if you think about it, TJ Watt has 0.5 more sacks, but in like a little bit over 100 less snaps. So the percentage is a little higher.
Yeah, that would be the one thing with Crosby is the percentage is different. But you also have to bear in mind he's playing on a defense that is far worse than almost all of these players, maybe besides Danielle Hunter.
Mm-hmm. Tackles for loss, stops. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think you can hold it that much against Crosby because it's like, on one
He's the
hand,
only
it's
guy.
like, yeah, he's playing more football, but on the other hand, it's like that makes him a little bit more valuable if you really think about it because he's, on the field more. But
And
then
also
again, if he's on the field more, he
could get more stats, but you got to consider he's also getting triple teamed.
Mm-hmm.
There was a play where he got triple teamed. He was trying to spin out of it. Quarterback rolls out, tries to scramble and go for a gain. Crosby goes full sprint and tracks him down and pushes him out of bounds for a loss, for a sack.
Mm-hmm.
It was insane. If I can find it, we'll play it.
I will play devil's advocate here, and I will just say that I think that most of the people on this spreadsheet get double and triple teamed as well. But that doesn't mean it's like it doesn't mean you're not a good player, Or,
Yeah, no,
I'm not
100%.
trying to bash Crosby.
Yeah. I mean, Boza also gets triple teamed, and where's he?
Hmm. Yeah, I
Anyway,
mean, even when he doesn't get triple teamed, where is he this season?
yeah,
We
unfortunately.
miss you, Nick Bosa. We miss the poor Nick Bosa, not the rich Nick Bosa.
And I mean, that's another thing with Crosby is like last year he didn't get an All-Pro nod in favor
Mhm.
of the Eagles defensive end or rusher, what do you want to call him? Hassan Reddick. And
Mhm.
Max Crosby tweeted like noted, like with pen and paper, like he took that to heart. And now you see his stats this season. It's like he's leading in most stats. Legit.
Mhm. Is
So
there is there like any other position players on defense that might possibly be in the running for defensive player of the year?
other than a edge rusher,
Yeah, other than an edge rusher, you know what I mean? Like maybe a linebacker who's really playing well, a
possibly Fred Warner.
safety, a corner.
I could give you
I
Fred Warner. Safety, probably not. Corner, maybe. I can't think of any corners. There might be a few corners out there that are doing really good, but I can't think of one. I feel like it's going to be an edge rusher this year, unless Fred Warner goes crazy after the bye, right?
mhm. I just
I
wonder.
mean,
I wonder
so
if defensive player of the year is going to sort of, you know, like
become like
turn
the
into.
MVP where it's always quarterback.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's possible, but I think there's more likelihood that there's a player on defense that like kills it. Like, I mean, back in 2007, Charles Woodson had the defensive player of the year where he was just getting hella touchdowns and shit. You're going to have players that do that sort of stuff that are just different. And I think a player like Fred Warner is one of those guys. Um,
Mhm.
but all that being said, this weekend, this Sunday's game, I realized like, oh, yeah, Crosby's easily in the conversation. Easily. He's 1000%. I would say, looking at this list, there's 6 guys. He's top 5 for sure in the running, I would say.
Mhm.
Um, I would probably take out Hendrickson. Um, and I'd put Crosby above Danielle Hunter. And I mean, looking at the stats, I'd put him above Micah Parsons as well. TJ Watt and
Well,
Myles Garrett were always the guys that I've considered to be the favorites so far.
the only
And
reason
also
why
just consider
Daniil.
this is the last thing I'll say about this. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna point out the only reason why Daniil Hunter is on this list is because his tackle for losses are, you know, uh,
Yeah.
they're at the top,
Well,
right, for the stats.
up until this week, he's been the leader in sacks, the leader. And then just this past weekend or
He
Thursday,
got
TJ
eclipsed.
Watt overtook him. Yeah, and now Myles Garrett and Crosby are tied with him. So his stats clearly looking. I mean, he has the most red, I would say. His stats are
He
actually
has the
looking
most
the
red,
least
but
impressive.
you're saying Hendrickson, might be bumped off this list. Hendrickson's stats don't look that bad. He's just sort of like in the middle of everyone here.
Yeah, and also just looking quickly, he has the least amount of snaps by far. If you do the percentage here, Hendrickson might actually be the most impressive.
Hmm.
So, but because of the low amount of snaps and honestly the lack of recognition around the league, I think he's not going to get it. I think the most hype guys are Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons, and Max Crosby. And
I
Boza
think
should be in that list, but he's nowhere to be seen right now.
he's still on vacation. I think he's still holding out for that new contract. He must
Yeah.
be. Um, but one thing that really jumps out to me is this number right here: the run stop win rate, or win percentage. Max Crosby nearly wins half of every single run rep. That to
Yeah.
me, that's crazy.
He's insane versus the run. Insane. And then
And
I mean
that
even
really
his
tells you that
pass
he's really
rush.
skilled with his hands and he's quick.
Yeah. And also like bear in mind the most snaps out of all these guys and his pass rush win rate is the fourth highest of these guys. He's better than TJ Watt and Danielle Hunter. that's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah, Joel has a really great question. How much
Yeah.
does it matter if your team is winning to win defensive player of the year?
I was thinking about this earlier.
Yeah.
The best I can think about is Khalil Mack, 2016, right? Raiders go to the playoffs, first time since 2002, and he had a crazy season. I think getting to the playoffs mattered big time. Even though they didn't win a playoff game after that, I think making the playoffs was a big deal. And of course, his stats and the fact that he was doing it linebacker and defensive end. Crosby, I think he can win it if the Raiders
Make the playoffs.
No. I think they just need to have a winning record under Antonio Pierce. If they become a team that is a force to be reckoned with, and any team that faces them is scared of them, knows that they can beat them, and Max Crosby's obviously going on a fucking crazy tear, he can win it. Because I don't see any of these guys right now separating themselves so far from him that they have to win it. The only way is if Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Micah Parsons have multiple games on prime time and they take over those games. And I'm not saying that's the only way that they beat out Max Crosby. I'm saying that's the only way that they separate themselves from him. Right?
I think
TJ
if
Watt,
the Raiders
Go
if
ahead.
the Raiders don't make the playoffs, I think Max Crosby would have to absolutely be far and beyond all of the other players in order to win defensive player of the year, because just having the best stats doesn't give you, like, I think sports writers and NFL executives vote on, well, actually I don't know if sports writers vote on this, but I'm assuming NFL
Associated
executives.
I think it's the Associated Press, but I don't know. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I don't know who votes on this, but I'm sure that backstory, goes into it, because it, for awards like this, it's not always, who had the best stats. It's like, there's context that
Yeah.
also gets like brought into this, and I think it would be a nice story, if the Raiders finish with a winning record under Antonio Pierce, but I don't know if it's everything to win this award, because there was still the time, there was still almost half the season with Josh McDaniels, and the defense was playing well, but like it just wasn't enough to win games. You know what I mean?
Okay. I don't think that the coach matters. I know I mentioned Antonio Pierce, but really what I'm saying is, like, for the remainder of the season, like, this team needs to become something more than what they've been, which, looking at the Giants game, they're on the right track. But really, the way that I look at it is, does he make his team better? Does he make his defense better? Okay. The past couple years, this defense, horrible. This year, under McDaniels, the defense was keeping them in games. And then in this game against the Giants, the defense created turnovers. And, I mean, the offense, they scored, I think, both of the rushing touchdowns with Jacobs off of turnovers. Otherwise, the opening drive was very well scripted, and it was run beautifully, and they got the end around to Jacoby Myers. You take away those turnovers, they might not win the game. No offense to Aiden O'Connell and the rest of the coaching staff, but I don't know how it goes without those turnovers. And I'm sure Max Crosby is a big part of that. So I think if their defense plays up to the standard of, having a perennial, I would say, all-pro on the roster who is in the running for Defensive Player of the Year, and he changes games consistently, he's in the running. But a guy like Myles Garrett or TJ Watt making so many big plays, especially in prime time, to the point where he helps get their team to the playoffs, there's a good likelihood that they surpass Max Crosby. But there's still the stats at the end of the day. So we will see.
You said you don't know if they win this game, but I do, because they win that game because I said so. So, going back to like recapping the game, at least as far as like talking about my prediction for the game, I predicted that there was going to be high energy in this stadium, and there was going to be excitement. A new regime. Well, not regime, but a new era, sort of like new coach, new leader. The team is going to be
Yeah,
run different.
It was a
It's
new set of hope, a new sense of hope. 100%.
Now, what do you think fans were more excited about? Were they more excited about Antonio Pierce being hired or Josh McDaniels being fired?
100% McDaniels being fired.
Okay.
Now
the
no
stuff that
slack
came
towards,
out after the stuff that the media stuff that they were putting out, to hype up Antonio Pierce and his press conference and everything. I'm sure that added to that, and it was probably rocking in Vegas.
1,000%. Yes, all the material that they put out this week, to hype us up on Antonio Pierce, absolutely helped. And I have more things to say about Pierce. I'm just kind of saving it for a little bit. But yeah, we both predicted the Raiders would win, and I'm very happy to report that they did in great fashion. Marcus Peters almost had an interception at one point. He had a nice sideline. He bobbled it and dropped it. Marcus Epps saved a deep touchdown early in the game. If he's one step behind, it's probably a touchdown to Jalen Hyatt. But he did a great job of deflecting it. Nate Hobbs, 7 tackles, an interception, PBU. Meek Robertson, again, player of the game on defense, other than Max Crosby. The both of them. Interception, forced fumble. The Giants were 2 of 4 when targeting him for 17 yards. He had 2 pass breakups. Defense as a whole had 8 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions. And the offense, 0 turnovers, 0 sacks allowed, 333 total yards. And just for context in this game, the Giants defense was coming off of 3 straight weeks, not allowing the opposition, which was the Bills, Commanders, and Jets, to score more than 14 points in an entire game. The Raiders haven't been able to score more than 21 points under Josh McDaniels this season. They scored 24 in the first half of this game. Now, the Giants were without Darren Waller, Tyrod Taylor. They just traded Leonard Williams. And they lost Daniel Jones at the end of the first quarter, really the beginning of the second quarter. It was really weird. He went down on a sack where he was kind of not contacted, and then Crosby got to him and touched him as he was down. Stayed down for a little bit. First quarter ends. Second quarter, first play, same thing. He goes down, non-contact. He tried to make a move, just goes down. Malcolm Kuntz gets him for the sack. Out for the year, torn ACL. So it was shocking to me that he played through or tried to. I think he tore his ACL in the first play in the end of the first quarter. But yeah, so third string played the rest of the game starting in the second quarter, as well as, Darren Waller, Tyrod Taylor, no Leonard Williams, no Daniel Jones. All valid reasons to not get too excited about this win over a 2-win team, the Giants. Although technically, the Raiders also started their third string quarterback, or at least the guy that was their third stringer to start the season, right? Aidan O'Connell. A rookie,
Wrongfully
no less.
so.
Yes, correct. And now it's been found and realized he is the best quarterback on the roster. Good.
We knew.
Yeah, we knew that. We knew that in the preseason.
Yep.
And this same Raider team lost to a 1-win Bears team 2 weeks ago. So a win is a win, especially a win in which you score 30 points, rush for 125 yards, and have 0 turnovers on 3 days of prep for the coaching staff under your interim head coach against a defense that, again, had been consistently keeping teams down to 14 points or less. It's an impressive win for Antonio Pierce. Do I think Aidan O'Connell and Antonio Pierce are this beginning of a new era? I don't, not quite, right? Not yet. But they're certainly getting a chance to prove themselves to be that, right? Let's see how Aidan O'Connell and the offensive play calling progresses as the season goes on. Antonio Pierce, he has his team fired up. new level of energy, intensity, and hope. And I'm loving what I'm seeing so far, right? And, you compare this to Josh McDaniels, and coaching matters. Coaching absolutely matters. And, this team has the players to get the job done. And now they have the faith and loyalty in their head coach that they needed to push them in the right direction for the remainder of the season. So Antonio Pierce gets his first win in his first game as a head coach. This is a tweet from Scott Gulbranson on Twitter. Pierce was asked today at his presser about why guys bought in right away. And Gulbranson loves his answer. Pierce says, "I'm very appreciative of it. When you're straightforward and don't BS, it is what it is. You don't have to worry about anything." If I'm being honest, that feels like, obviously he's being forward about how he is, but also I think it's a little bit of a jab towards Josh McDaniels, because I don't think things were quite as straightforward with him. And if you've heard a lot of the things that were coming out this week about McDaniels, it's pretty clear how he was.
I'm glad that you said that. Let's talk about this. I really want to talk about this, or at least, I at least want to acknowledge it. Before we do, Joel said, I was hyped that we let go of McDaniels, but the buildup from Antonio Pierce hyped me up even more. So I think it was the combination of both.
The combination, listen, okay, firing Josh McDaniels didn't get me in the seats. Antonio Pierce got me in the seats. So maybe I'm wrong from what I said earlier, but the both of them together, it feels so right. And again, restored hope, right? Even if the season is lost and we can't make the playoffs, I still think there's a shot. There's a shot. I mean, we're 2 games, but right now we're 2 games behind Steelers, Browns, Bengals. You never know. I mean, we're going to get into the upcoming schedule later, but we'll see. But I agree, Joel. But go ahead.
So do you want to read this or yeah, I'll read it.
Okay.
Before firing Josh McDaniels, the Raiders had a team meeting where players directed their frustrations at McDaniels and unloaded on him. McDaniels had Antonio Pierce speak on his behalf, and Pierce brought up the Giants' 07 team that beat the undefeated Patriots, explaining how that team believed that they could beat anyone. Pierce said the Raiders need that mindset. The players all loved it, but McDaniels didn't. McDaniels told Pierce when everyone left, "Don't ever talk about the Patriots like that." That's when everyone saw how divided the building was, and owner Mark Davis wanted Pierce as his head coach. And that is via Jay Glazer on Fox. All right, real quick. I've read this tweet before, but one thing that I didn't realize until I just read it out loud right now, McDaniels told Pierce when everyone left, "Don't ever talk about the Patriots like that." That's when everyone saw how divided the building was. So if everyone left, who was there to witness that?
Well, from what I understand, Mark Davis went and talked to many captains of the team and coaches after this meeting happened. So I'm assuming, obviously, Ari Merov kind of took it the wrong way and presented it the wrong way. I'm assuming Antonio Pierce told this to some people, if not solely to Mark Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably it rubbed Antonio Pierce the wrong way. I just read what he said. When you're straightforward and don't BS, it is what it is. Josh McDaniels, you're the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, and you don't want somebody to talk about the Patriots like that? Oh my God, I have so many words for you.
I can't believe he said that.
That's insane.
That's
insane.
Right. Acting like somebody's talking about his mom.
Right. Like his family. And I get it. He has great memories with them and everything, but dude, you got to be a Raider. You can't be a Patriot on the Raiders.
When
That's
I read
ridiculous.
that, I'm like, this dude doesn't even want to be the coach of the Raiders. He just got the bag.
He's here for the check.
And he's here. Yeah. He's here to get fired and then go back. Yeah. Yep. I guarantee as long as Belichick is back there, that's where he's going back. He's just going to go back and be the offensive coordinator there.
Yeah, I sent a pretty stern text in the group chat. I don't know if you caught it. Please don't read it on here. But basically, the Patriots coaches are good as cooked when Belichick retires. They're done. They're not getting jobs in this league. No.
They didn't evolve with the times, or maybe they weren't good enough,
Yeah.
and it was just all Brady. But the thing is like Belichick was good as a defensive coach on the Giants back, like, when they were rivaling
And the Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah. Belichick's a great coach. He's obviously a great mind, but his disciples, no. Can you pull up the first tweet that I sent you tonight? It's a video of Antonio Pierce. I think now's the perfect time to show it. Just, going off of what Joel said in the comment. Because I have a very specific thought about this video.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Won some big games. You are a Super Bowl champion. But I'm asking this question to 7-year-old Antonio from Compton, California, who told me his whole life was Kings and Raiders football. How does this win differ from everything else?
Best one. Raiders!
Won some big games.
It almost looked like he was leaning in for a kiss there at the end. I was like, no way.
I have never seen. I don't think I have ever seen a Raiders head coach, especially a standing head coach, yell Raiders like a Raider fan. Okay, they can go Raiders in like a microphone, trying to hype up the crowd, right? I'm sure Gruden has done it before, but I've never seen somebody yell it like they're a fan. Mm-hmm. That video right there meant a lot to me. I can tell you that. And it means a lot, I think, to a lot of Raider fans.
Antonio Pierce right now is on the trajectory to be every Raider fan that's our age, like their favorite head coach of all time.
That they've ever seen, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, because Gruden, McDaniels, goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If this team can keep upward momentum by the end of the season, there is no reason why Mark Davis shouldn't, keep him.
Yeah.
And even extend him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe not for like 5 years, but like, if you keep him maybe like 2 more years, let him prove it. Let him prove that it can be sustained, because like at the end of the day, even if there's still upward momentum, I'd say 2 years is appropriate.
Yeah. Hold that for 1 second. Antonio Pierce had the practice squad players on the sidelines. Apparently that wasn't a thing under Josh McDaniels. I thought that was a thing in the NFL, but apparently it's the coach's choice. I didn't know that. But the fact that he changed that first game in, hey, everybody's going to be there. We're a team. Come on, man. Like, that is you developing the team. You're focusing on the team. I love that. It's a small thing, but it's like, yeah, good. Some of those guys are going to be playing next weekend. Of course you want them on the fucking sidelines. Mm-hmm. So I don't.
Because I'm telling you right now in the NFL, it's not. I don't know whether or not it's prevalent, but if it's not, there's got to be, the coach's mindset is they want to limit the distractions on the sideline during the game. But right now it seems like Antonio Pierce is using all that to his advantage. You know what I mean? He wants to get these guys together. He wants everybody to feel like they're appreciated in the building, that, he believes in every single one of them. Hey, you could be on the team next week. We need you locked in. We need everybody. And he shook everybody's hands. Even Garoppolo's the guy that, that his first move as a head coach was like, I'm benching your ass. Like,
but he's going to be straightforward with you. Right.
Like, I'm not a Raider fan, but right now, if I had to suit up, I would run through a brick wall for that coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Former player, he knows what it is. He's been through it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like Josh McDaniels, if I had to play for him, I'd probably run headfirst into a brick wall. not through it.
Yeah.
I would probably just run headfirst into a brick wall, break my neck, and
Yeah.
be happy.
So it's nice that under Antonio Pierce, this team feels like exactly that, a team,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't feel like analytical people, for a guy with a clipboard, right? This is a team. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, hypothetically, if Antonio Pierce wins more games than he loses to end the season, he's got 9 games, I want to say. So let's say he goes 5-4, 6-3. I looked at the schedule. It's possible. Let's say he does that, right? His team plays hard for him and they do it. 6-3, 5-4. Should the Raiders give him the job? Question mark. Now, first, by rule, the Raiders have to open the interim jobs up to an extensive search, regardless of what happens, because they're interim positions, right? So GM, head coach, offensive coordinator. Pierce has a chance right now to get a head start by winning games, winning over the locker room, and the graces of Mark Davis. He's got the ultimate head start on any other guy out there, any other option this offseason. Regardless, they have to interview at least 2 candidates of color, right? Through the Rooney Rule. They're going to interview more than that. But he's got
do
the
they
head start.
have to interview, like candidates of color? Do they have to? Because didn't Mark Davis get, didn't he break that rule?
It was
when he hired
questionable.
Gruden?
When he got Gruden, it was questionable. But basically what happened was, I think he already had his choice in mind, but his bullshit way of doing it at the time, because I don't think he wanted to waste anybody's time. And you could say that's a negative thing or a good thing. I don't know. But I'm not Mark Davis. He wanted John Gruden to replace Jack Del Rio, but he had to interview 2 coaches of color. So he interviewed like their tight ends coach and their fucking defensive backs coach from the Raiders. And then he hired John Gruden. So I don't think they ever got penalized. So technically he did it how they have to. But it was clearly the bare minimum, right? There were 2 guys that weren't going to get the job,
Mhm.
which is, it's messed up. And I have thoughts about the Rooney Rule. I'm not really going to get into it, but it feels a little counterintuitive sometimes, right? But I also understand the premise of it, and
Mhm.
I'm going to leave it at that.
I love when black head coaches get hired.
Dude, the best
especially,
example is Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's one of the top 3 coaches in the league, period.
Yeah. He's been great for a long time. Sustained success. It seems like every other year the Niners are pumping out a really great head coach into the NFL.
And that's the other part of the
their
rule is the
defensive
whole third.
coordinators.
That's the other part of the rule is the whole 3rd round pick compensation when you have a coach of color leave your organization for a higher role at another organization. It's another thing I have thoughts about, but I'm not going to get into. But
yeah, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder if Kyle Shanahan.
They're incentivized. They're
Yeah.
incentivized to do it. It's like, but
like
I
all
understand
right,
wanting
Robert
to get
Saleh-
more. Go ahead.
Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans were absolutely fantastic candidates, and Steve Wilkes, I still think he can adjust and improve as a coordinator. For the 49ers. I know we're not talking about the Niners right now, but it makes you look at Shanahan a little bit sideways, like because he had the option of getting Vic Fangio, who had been like at their practices for for how long, and did Shanahan just think, oh, we could hire anybody, so we might as well try and get a 3rd round pick? Makes you think like maybe that was the thought process. Like,
It's entirely
I'm not saying
possible
that's what
because
happened. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it makes
It's
you think, like, look at it a little bit that way.
it's entirely possible because that's clearly their track record. The amount of comp picks that the Niners have gotten in recent years are insane. And Vic Fangio is a great example. And I also saw a tweet about, they trade for
Chandler Jones.
No.
I
Chase
thought you
Young.
were gonna- Oh, did I?
Chandler Jones,
Yeah.
yeah.
Chase Young.
You go
if he
ahead. You go ahead.
leaves-
You want to trade for Chandler Jones? You go right ahead. Be my guest.
Yeah, we made a deal with the cartel to acquire Chandler Jones. Jesus.
But
Yeah,
you gave up a
we're not
third round
making it.
pick.
We're not
You gave
making
up
it,
a
Mike.
third round pick for Chase Young, and you're likely going to get like at least one third round comp pick this year for letting Mike McGlinchey go. The
Mhm.
Niners know how to do it. Another team that's done that very well in recent years is the Ravens. I'm sure the Patriots have known how to do that for a long time. These teams that are uber successful, they're like that for a reason because they know how to do it, all of it. So, yeah. But, I mean, all I was saying was, when it comes to that role, as far as hiring coaches from other teams and yada, 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 it's like these teams are incentivized to have their, offensive and defensive coordinators be of color just so that they can leave for another team. So if you're a successful team like under Shanahan and Mike McDaniel and Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans are all right of color, when they leave, you're getting 2 third-round picks each. And the Ron Carthon, how do you say his name?
Rand Carthon, I think.
Rand Carthon. GMs as well, right? So if you have an assistant GM in place and they get hired as a GM at another team, if they're of color, have fun with your 2 third-round picks that you just acquired for free.
To the
essentially.
49ers and Shanahan's credit, these have all been great candidates, and they've all been successful everywhere they went.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
Carthon, he still has a lot of work to do, but Mike McDaniel has been very successful in Miami so far. D'Amico Ryans looks to have a great young quarterback, and a pretty good team that he's building there. And Robert Saleh is surviving without Aaron Rodgers. Like Saleh looked like he was struggling a little bit, but they got through some really tough games. They beat Philly 2 weeks ago.
Well, just look at the Jets defense. I think that proves how great of a coach Saleh is. Their defense is a top 10 defense in the league, and he's a defensive minded coach. I have no issues with these coaches. I'm not trying to catch hell for what I've been saying, but in that sense, I don't care I don't care if he's purple. I don't care if he's green. If he's a good coach, I want him on my team. If Antonio Pierce is the guy, I want him on my team. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't care about the renewal and this and that, how it affects the team. I just want the best coaches. I want the Raiders to succeed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just think, incentivizing teams to, blah, 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 or forcing teams to look at blah, 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 blah. It's like,
I think forcing teams to interview.
I think that one's okay, but incentivizing is a little weird.
No, I think it's the other way around because I think incentivizing is working because it's actually getting results. Forcing people to interview people of color who are not going to get the job, it's wasting their time. And it's like giving them this false sense of hope that they're going to get hired. Whereas look at the 49ers. The Niners are racking up, third round picks, but, they're actually pumping out great candidates.
And they're developing these coaches too. Yeah, no, I see that. Yeah.
I mean, maybe these coaches would have shined without the 49ers. You know what I mean? I'm over here saying they're pumping out candidates, but it's like they clearly have a good group of talent, at coaching. Yeah. And, it's working out for both parties in this,
right. And I mean, coaches coming out of the Niners Shanahan tree have been very successful, I would say. So, but all that being said, where
let's bring it back. Raiders, Giants.
By rule, the Raiders have to open up an extensive search for their head coach and GM and offensive coordinator positions in this offseason. So yeah, I mean, let's say they go 5-4, 6-3 under Pierce. Do you run it back with Pierce, Champ Kelly, even possibly Bo Hardegree? I don't see why not. Right? I think if this group proves on half season's notice that they can go out there and win games more than they lose games,
you have to bring them back.
Hell yeah, you give them an off season. Yeah, hell yeah, you give them an off season to load up, build the team the way that they want to do it, get a full offseason to really go through the play calling motions, right? And probably Aiden O'Connell would be the starter.
Mhm.
And then you can just go in the draft and draft a corner, draft a linebacker, draft something that you really need. I mean, you could argue QB is still a need, and it's never a bad thing to upgrade a quarterback, but
Mhm.
I think I'd be more inclined to see a corner or a linebacker drafted in the first round and wait on quarterback until we really know who this offense is run by.
Mhm. This
But
offseason, we're going to learn if Mark Davis learns from his mistakes, because
Yep.
there's two mistakes that we can absolutely take a look at to see if Mark Davis learns. First is getting, let's just say the Raiders make the playoffs or are, finish the season with a winning record under Pierce. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
in the remaining games that Pierce has.
Yeah.
The mistake they made with Bisaccia and not staying with the guy that is like proven to take your team from point A to point B.
And
Like,
has the locker room fully behind him.
yes.
Crosby and Carr were very upset when Bizaki was let go.
Okay. So we'll see if he learns from that mistake. And then the second mistake to see if he learns from is if all right, I think it would be a mistake if after this season, no matter what happens, to give Antonio Pierce a long-term deal. No matter what happens.
Yeah, and
Unless
I
he
would
wins
probably,
the Super Bowl.
yeah, I would give him a 2-year deal. If because I mean Antonio Pierce wasn't expecting this a month ago, right? Maybe a week ago, but I would give Antonio Pierce a 2-year deal and say, hey, here you go, man. Here's 2 years to go out there and show me what you really got. You get 2
Mhm.
off seasons to go out there and do that. Like, I think Antonio Pierce would take that. If I were him, I'd take it. Shit. He probably didn't expect to be anywhere near a head coaching candidate for at least 10 years from now. Right? Maybe less.
Honestly, if you think about it, like, even if he doesn't have a winning record by the end of the season, if the fans are still loving him and eating it up, just bring him back. If it's what the fans want to see,
Yeah.
like I don't know, it's really fun to watch, even from somebody who doesn't root for the team.
Yeah. And I mean, the last thing I'll say about this, like, obviously the remainder of the season will really tell us more as far as how we feel and how the offense looks, how the defense continues to look. And we'll see how the coaching staff rolls around, come a couple weeks into the offseason. But I will say, I think regardless, the offensive staff will probably have some turnover. They still have Matt Lombardi, brother of Mick Lombardi, who was the offensive coordinator. Matt Lombardi's an assistant still. And they also still have Danny Amendola as a special teams assistant right now. So there's still some major Patriots ties on the offensive staff, and I wouldn't expect them to stick around. If they were to continue with the current coaching staff, as far as, the main three with Pierce, Patrick Graham, and Bo Hardegree, I would very much expect Carmen Brasillo, the offensive line coach, to stay as well. He's been killing it this year with his offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I mean, as far as Matt Lombardi and Danny Amendola go, granted, Deuce Gruden, the son of John Gruden, is still a strength and conditioning coach on this team. So who knows? We'll see. But my current hope is that Aiden O'Connell progresses into a genuine starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. He doesn't have to be a top 5, top 10 quarterback. Just show that you are a true starting quarterback in this league that is worth giving a shot perhaps next season to be the starter. Perhaps the Raiders can build their roster similar if he proves, to be a good quarterback, similar to the Niners with Brock Purdy's current contract, right? Now, Jimmy Garoppolo's kind of taints that a little bit, but you can go out there this offseason, next offseason, and spend some money, surround him with talent, build up the defense, win some games. So